Right, so we are now out in space. So let's get this whole Raxxla thing in. Now I'm actually going to start up a web browser because we need to talk a little bit about the background of the game. In fact, I'm going to do something. Now, apologies for this because this screws up my um, chat window a little bit, but I'm going to go to a direct camera focus for me. So apologies that it will be zooming in on me, but I need to show you something. So this is me. Hello. Bear with me. I need to get something. Here we go. So some of you won't have seen this before. Some of you will. This is the original box for the original Elite game from 1984. This is for the ZX Spectrum, 48K, and on the back you can see a really exciting game, and you can actually see, I don't know if you can see that, can you see the Thargoids? They're actually on the back of the box. And the reason I've got this out, and this is a piece of history. This is from the 80s, obviously, 1985, because this is the Spectrum version. It originally came out on the BBC the year before, which is the one that David Braben and Ian Bell actually wrote. This one was a port done by, oddly enough, a company called Firebird, as you can see on the front. This is the Spectrum version. Now, the BBC back in 1984 cost about £400. Now that in today's money is something like £2.5 Okay. Now the ZX Spectrum, which was pretty much equivalent in many ways in terms of processing power, was 150 quid, 175 quid, which was still a lot, but it was, more like £1,000 in today's money. So you can see why a lot of parents got their kids the Spectrum rather than the BBC. But we had to wait a year before it came out on the Spectrum. But this is a little bit of a retro unboxing I'm doing here, because this is my copy from 1984. I have looked after it, and this is it. I got this for Christmas in 1985, and that is it. That's the original box. This is how old Elite is. That's what it looked like back in 1984. And inside here is lots of cool stuff. Okay. Now, most importantly, is the actual game itself. This is how software came. Okay, there you go. That is Elite for the ZX Spectrum. This is a cassette. For those of you who don't know what this is, this is a cassette. And this is what Elite came on. You put it in the cassette player for the computer, and just an ordinary domestic cassette player. And about 5 minutes later, the game would have loaded. Now on the Spectrum, we did have a really early form of DRM, which was this. How many of you know what this is? Anybody? Come on, somebody in the chat will know what this is. Spill the beans. This was lens lock. Kelly Baglar's the first one there. Now lens lock. You put this on the monitor. Okay, well not the monitor, but the TV. I'll show you sideways. And it would give you a code. Now there's a prism in this plastic which distorts the screen and allows you to read the code. And it would give you 2 characters, and it would, if you type the code in correctly, your game would play. If you type the code in incorrectly, your game would go bloop, and you'd have to reload. It was hated. It really was hated. Everybody hated the lens lock, but there you go. That is an original lens lock. That is an original lens lock. So there we go. That's what was in there. So that's what that looked like. There you go. Unboxing in there. What else did we have? We had a keyboard overlay. So you would stick this on your computer. You can see, I hope, a few of the controls there. Just struggling to see them myself. Taurus jump drive, prices, anti-clockwise roll, so on and so forth. All that kind of good stuff was all part of the game. You probably can fire lasers there somewhere. Not quite sure where it is. Overlay for the keyboard. Okay. So that is what you'd stick on your ZX Spectrum, and that would tell you how to fly your Cobra. So because there are a lot of keys. What else did you have? This is one of my favourite bits of the game. A ship identification chart. Look at those graphics. So that is, there you go, you can see ship identification chart. You can tell it's a ship identification chart because it says ship identification chart at the top. And there are all the ships that were in Elite. And they were all little lumps of cheese, really, because that's all the computers of the day could manage. But you'll notice a few familiar names. I think you can see over here. That's the Python. I think this is there's the Adder, the Anaconda. So those of you wondering where some of these strange names come, there's a Sidewinder as well. Where the strange names came from, they came from the original version. And then the Thargoid is on there as well. Where's the Thargoid? Oh yeah, down there. There you go. There is the Thargoid. And you'll notice it has a very distinctive octagonal shape. And that was there to help you identify all the ships. Now you've got to remember, playing this game for the first time back in 1984, you're thinking, my God, there's an infinite number of stars and galaxies and spaceships out there, and it's all inside my computer. Isn't that incredible? Here is lens lock instructions for use, telling you how to use the lens lock. There you go, you can just about see there some poor soul figuring out how to do the lens lock and how to use it. So you even had instructions for the lens lock, that was in there. Another keyboard overlay for the different version of the Spectrum, which didn't fit over the keys, and then a summary of all the controls as well. And then we get on to the really cool stuff. So we used to get these are things that used to come with games. This is the instruction book, and it's really detailed. Look, considering this was a game, I mean, it's not hugely thick, you can see there, but this has got loads of stuff in it. So it has navigation and fighting and interplanetary travel and trading, and it's got graphics and it tells you stuff. They really spent a lot of time, and it's got a map of the galaxy. It's got how the original console worked. Now you look at that, you'll notice that there are a lot of features on the original console which are still in the current the ED. Quite amazing, really. A little bit about how to fight and tactics and all sorts of things to use, when to use missiles and so on and so forth. It was pretty sophisticated. How to, there you go, there's another one on how to fight. Lovely graphic there, quite awesome stuff. It's a beautiful manual with some quite nice artwork. There's a Python there, which obviously wouldn't have looked like that in the game, but gives you an idea of what the ships were like. It was a beautiful manual and fun to read. You would pore through this. Kids of my generation would pore through these manuals looking for clues, and they were very well written. Had some really good stuff. And at the back lovely way of writing it. The Observer's Guide to Ships in Service. There's the Adder with technical specs on the Adder, and we can look up the Cobra. There it is there, and we have the technical specs on the Cobra. This all came with the game. You could compare your Cobra to the other ships in the universe and see whether it was better or worse and all that kind of good stuff. It even had a place for you to write your own log, which fortunately I didn't do. I wrote it in a notebook, so I didn't ruin my copy. But you can a pilot's log of where you went and how much you paid for stuff and all that kind of stuff. They'd really thought about it. Really cool. So the manual is awesome. The manual is an interesting read. But what else was in there? This was in there. Okay. This was in there. This is where all the mythos behind Elite started. Okay. Arguably, I would say where all the cool stuff, other than the game and the graphics and all that kind of cool stuff, but where all the cool stuff started. This is the novella, which is like a short novel. Came with the book. Quite a new thing back in '84. He says I've just bashed my mic. There we go. This is an entire story. Now, if you haven't read this, hush falls over all. Yes, so this is it. This is the story which starts the game. It's a reasonable length story. It has characters in it. It has lore in it. It has background information, and it is really the origin of all the Elite mysteries that ever there was. And you'll find here, and I will find it. The first reference is on. Here we go. The first reference to Raxxla, our subject for this evening, is on page 12. And I'm just going to point to it because I won't be able to see it here. Here it is, Raxxla. There we go. Can you see that? Raxxla, Jason said. Remember Raxxla. There we go. That is the first ever reference to the Raxxla mystery from 1984 in the Dark Wheel. Okay, this is where it starts. Now inside here you will find references to the original planets in Elite, and if any of you have been to places like Lave and Tia Nizla and Tiorj and Ridquat, which actually I can show you in Elite. Hang on, let's pop back over to there for a moment. So we're going to go, I'll have a look at the galaxy map for a moment. Go zoom out because I'm near Sagittarius A right now, but if we go back to Lave, there we go. There we go. Now these planets here, Lave, Riot, Dizo, Listi, Orev, and Ridquat, and Zeonce and Tia Nizla were all in the original game. Okay, this is where the game started back in 1984, exactly as it's seen here today in Elite Dangerous. And these group of systems have been in all of the Elite games, all the way from the beginning. Now the original Elite was procedurally generated stuff, and these names were random ones created by the system back then, but they've been retained for the history and the background lore of Elite. So Tia Nizla is a very famous place. Riot is a very famous place, and there are a few others that people don't realise are still there. Here's another one, Tiorj, not too far away. This one was in the original game as well. And there's another one a bit further out called Tianve, which is also in the original game. Okay, so there are quite a few, and you may have missed some of these. Even some of the detailed Elite aficionados may not know that there are quite a few of the original 8-bit systems still present in Elite Dangerous. Okay, now they still exist. They still exist. Now they may be important. Now what do we know about Raxxla from this book? And just for those of you who are questioning, but I haven't got a copy of the book, where do I get a copy from? Well, you're in luck, because, let me just pop back over here, desktop focus this time. The text of it is online. So if you type Dark Wheel into any browser, you'll find the first link here is actually Ian Bell. He is the co-author of the original Elite, and he has got the text of it up online. So it's searchable, readable, and so on and so forth. So if I search for Raxxla in here, we can see we get that exact phrase, Raxxla, Jason said, remember Raxxla. Okay, which means it's a lot more accessible. Okay, if you want to do this sort of stuff. When did I start writing or documenting lore for Elite? Actually, 1985. Once I started playing the game, I started making notes and I started writing pretty awful fan fiction, to be honest. Somewhere, I don't know where it is. Is it accessible? Probably not. I will dig it out. Somewhere I have the first, I've still kept it, I have my first ever Elite story that I wrote as a kid back in 1985, which is obviously rubbish, but I've kept it because it's a thing. So I have been inspired and been writing about Elite, and kind of for Elite, I suppose, in some way, right from 1985, right from when it began. In fact, it was this book, The Dark Wheel by Robert Holdstock, that first persuaded me to start my hand at writing. So this is my inspiration. So The Dark Wheel has a special place for me, not only because it's where all the mysteries of Elite started, but it's where my own writing kind of kicked off from. But no Trumbles, Winnie. No Trumbles. No Trumbles. Where the Trumbles go? They're in the C64 version of Elite. Now, it was probably worth me just summarising what happens in the Dark Wheel very quickly. So, because it's kind of important for Raxxla, for those of you who don't know this. So, basically, what happens in the Dark Wheel is there's a young lad. Okay, his father takes him out on a space cruise to kind of show him the ropes of flying a ship. When they come out of hyperspace, or witch space as it's known, they get attacked, and their ship is not. They get attacked by a cobra, and their ship, which is a small kind of pleasure yacht, isn't capable of fighting off the cobra. The cobra destroys their ship. Jason is pushed into an escape pod. The last thing his father said to him is Raxxla. Jason said, "Remember Raxxla." And then as he pushed Alex into the cramped escape pod, he shouted, "Remember me, Alex, I wouldn't have wished this on you. Raxxla." Okay? Escape pod jettisons, his ship is destroyed, his father is killed. So Alex is effectively alone. With just that, he gets this single phrase. His father has never said Raxxla before. He has literally just been chucked into a escape pod. His father's been killed in front of him. He has that word. Okay. Now, after a while, he bumps into somebody else, an old friend of his father, and who's kind of estranged from his father. And then this guy who's called Rafe Zeta asks Alex, did he say anything? Did he say anything kind of odd? And Jason says, I think he knew he was going to die. The last thing he said was the word Raxxla. I don't know what that is. An alien, I guess. And here's your first clue. Okay. Rafe smiled, shaking his head. Suddenly there was a brilliant sparkle in his eyes. Raxxla's no alien, Alex. It's a ghost world. A planet. A legend. He hesitated. Jason really said that to you? Alex nodded. Moments before, it was the last thing he said. Then he knew, Rafe said with a nod, and that's good enough for me. Alex, get your frail shell to Tia Nisla, take her visitor shuttle, and go to the Orbital Cemetery there, and you'll see the grave of so-and-so, and have a good look around. Okay, so Raxxla is revealed here to be a ghost world, a planet, and a legend. That's how we first start finding out about Raxxla. Now, it's worth pointing out at this point is that the Dark Wheel is and isn't still lore. Okay. Now we have to be a bit careful about this, guys, because when we were writing the original Elite books for Elite Dangerous back in 2014, 2015, we were told that the Dark Wheel wasn't lore, but it also wasn't entirely retconned either. So a lot of the stuff that's in it is still about. So Lave, Tia Nisla, Tiorge, and all the other bits and pieces, the ships. Some of the stuff that's in here talks about alien creatures that are sentient, which is something that did get dropped off from Elite in the subsequent games. But everything else has kind of been retained. So the fact that Raxxla is still being referenced in Elite Dangerous, and we've heard Frontier talk about it, does mean that a lot of the stuff from the Dark Wheel has still been retained, and it's got a special place of reverence in the Elite lore, because this is where Elite lore started, this book. But no more cat people. There were some blue bony felines in the original game. In fact, while I've got this up, I'm just going to show you the original Elite map. Let's go to ZX Spectrum Elite Online. Here we go. See if I can get, I think it's called Q up. There we go. Here we go, Elite. Now I'm hoping they've taken off. Yeah, they have. So this is Elite. This is 8-bit Elite. This is what it looked like. I mean, you may not, with your modern gaming eyes, you may not be all that impressed by that, but you've got to put yourself back in 1984. How primitive these computers were, and how stunning this looked at the time. This was just, there's a spinning 3D solid spaceship there. And we knew there was going to be virtually an infinite galaxy out there for us to explore in our computers. It was awesome to behold. So there's a Python. May recognise the shape still. I'm just going to press Space Commander. Now, if I can get the right key, which I think is O, there we go. Notice anything about this? Lave, Deso, Listi, Zeonce, and Tia Nisla. Okay, got that? Going back over to my Elite here. Let's just go back, compare and contrast, okay? So we have Lave. I'm just going to swap you back over here. There we go. Lave, Riot, Dizo, Listi, Zaelz, and Tianisla. Alright? That's how important the original game of Elite is, even now, to Elite Dangerous. The planetary description, so here, so this is data on Lave. So you can see Lave is most famous for its vast rainforests and the Lavian tree warthog. Go figure. We can lock on to Tianisla by comparison. There we go. 8 light years away, and ask about that. And it says this world is very notable for the inhabitants' ingrained shyness. And a Rev there too. Yeah, let's go back and get that. There's a Rev down there. I'm trying to remember the original keys. It's quite hard. There we are, 6.8 light years away. There we are, a Rev. This planet is a dull place. But notice it's human colonials there. If we go to one of the ones I happen to know, and this is the original galaxy for Elite. I'm going to go up here because we've already mentioned this planet up here. No, not that one. Is it this side? Tianve. Da-da. There we go. Tianve has this planet. Tianve is reasonably noted for its inhabitants' exceptional loathing of food blenders and zero-G cricket. So you can probably see a Hitchhiker's reference creaking in there. But notice the population is 5.9 billion blue bony felines. Alas, the blue bony felines have long since disappeared. Listi, I can't remember what the description for Listi was. Let's go find out. Oh, and I've got to... Yeah, this was a small bug. I have to bring the cursor back into range. But you can see the beginnings here of the original map and how it worked. There we go. Kind of the same mechanisms in some ways. So Listi, the planet Listi is reasonably fabled for zero-G cricket and Listian evil juice. And has anybody ever heard of Listian evil juice? It's still a product in Elite Dangerous even today. So expect Frontier to have taken clues from this original game and embedded them into Elite Dangerous. Tianve was right up there. Do you notice where it was? It's miles and miles away. Okay, right up there. It was one of the furthest systems to get to in the original Elite. Okay, right up there, 89 light years away, which for the original game was a massive, massive series of jumps. And today, Tianve still exists in Elite Dangerous. Now, I asked at the time why Tianve was in the game, because I thought it was quite cool, and I don't think many other people noticed it, because I did a search, sad as I am, for how many of the original Elite systems are in Elite Dangerous, and there are quite a few. And you need, and this is a clue for you guys to go and follow and have a look at, for those of you who know the original game, you'll notice it says here Galactic Chart 1. There are 7 other galactic charts in the original game, and in the sequel games there are also a bunch of additional star systems that have been added in. And I've had a quick check, and some of the other chart systems are also present in Elite Dangerous. So there's got to be a reason for that. Why would Frontier have included this far-flung star system here? I kind of get for retro why you do these original ones, yeah? That makes sense. But why would you bother with that one? And they haven't bothered with any of the other ones around this zone. Okay, they haven't bothered any of the other ones around this zone, just this one, Tianve. It's there in Elite Dangerous today. Why is it there? Okay, somebody somewhere is doing clever stuff, but I don't know why. Right, so that's that section. Now let's go back to the Dark Wheel again. Okay, so Alex meets a colleague. Meets a colleague. They go to Tianisla. First place they go to. There's supposed to be a graveyard here. Now Frontier promised to put the graveyard into Elite in version 2.2, and for whatever reason they haven't been able to do it so far. But surprise, surprise, Tianisla does exist in Elite Dangerous. There it is. Boom, boom. The Tia Nisla system. So there's another thing. They then use a Cobra Mark III, fair enough, and they get it back up and running, and they do the kind of trading thing. And Alex basically vows to go and kill whoever it was that killed his father in the Cobra. The other thing you'll notice is a character here called Alicia, and she comes from a world called Tiorge, and that does, I believe I'm correct in saying, I'm just trying to remember where it is. I'm going to have to move this cursor back. See if I can find it, because I think it's up here somewhere. Where is it? It's slightly out of range of the initial jump. Cesar, where is it? I thought it was up here somewhere. I'm showing my ignorance now. I haven't done this for a long, long time. Where is Tiorge? There is a find option somewhere in the game. I can't remember what the option is. Where is Tiorge? Is it? It's not in the original space, is it? No. Come on to Badru. Are the names that are common because of similar name generation? No, they're not. The anything that's procedurally generated in Elite has a sector name and just a code. That's how Elite does its generating things. These ones have been deliberately hand-picked in order to put them in, because Elite is not using the same generation as the original game. So if they're in there, there's a reason for them to exist. Now, what is... Actually, I have got the keyboard here. I can go and look it up. Somewhere there's a... Find planet. There we go. So that's going to be QT. It should be T. Does that work? Maybe it's on this one. T. No. Y. R. Planet name. Here we go. Right. Tiorge. Distance. There it is. Okay. Now notice this. This one is also... It's 27 light years away. Where is it? There. There we are. I wasn't too far away. So that's where Tiorge is in the original Elite. Guess what? The Tiorge system also exists in Elite Dangerous. Okay? These systems have been deliberately put in the game. It could be Morocco. It could be that it is just a nod to the original games. That's quite possible. But there are, if they are a nod to the original game, it's been done with some purpose, because the only systems that are referenced in this fashion are the systems that are mentioned in this book, the Dark Wheel, which of course, and the whole point of the Dark Wheel is the legend of Raxxla. Now Alicia happens to come from Tiorge. Now Alex and Alicia kind of get going. They have a ship, they get it fixed up. And then we get our next little nod to Raxxla. You know, Alex gets a bit suspicious of, you know, why are you helping me here? What's going on? And Rafe responds with, I'm doing it for Jason and for others besides. Okay, so Jason isn't the first. And listen, Alex, don't you go worrying about Raxxla. Not yet. That comes in time. Okay? Okay, so you've got to be patient. Where is the 9th galaxy? Well, that's the original PC version of Elite. Had the 9th galaxy. Who knows about that one? I haven't actually even checked that one out yet. That's another thing on my list. One thing's for sure, Rafe went on dryly. Unless you get there, unless you become Elite, you'll never get to Raxxla. Now, is that something that means that we, as commanders in Elite Dangerous, must be Elite? Must be triple Elite? Must be quadruple Elite? Must be just an Elite? But it says very specifically here, unless you become Elite, you will never get to Raxxla. So there's a thing. And you'll never know exactly what your father was searching for. Okay, as father was searching for. And then here's the next bit. Okay, I don't understand. Were you aware of his involvement in the Dark Wheel? Who are the Dark Wheel? Okay, now you've probably seen in your codex, in here. Yeah, good luck in getting to Elite on CQC. Yeah, I've not done very well at all. But, knowledge base. Okay, Raxxla. Well, there's a bunch of stuff you can read about Raxxla in there. How useful that is, I'm not sure. I haven't gone through it in too much detail yet. It's on my list. There's a few bits and pieces in there. But there's also this organisation called the Dark Wheel. Okay. Oh, they're out there, all right. I've never met them, but I know they're out there. Think about how well the stories are. Okay. So who are the Dark Wheel? The Dark Wheel, once more, first appear, surprisingly, in the book The Dark Wheel. The Dark Wheel are described here. The Dark Wheel was a semi-legendary space unit, Star Riders, who made it their business to seek the truth behind the plethora of myths and romantic stories that filtered back from all corners of the universe. Fabulous cities, parallel worlds, time travellers, even planets that appeared to be the old heaven of Earth legend. The Dark Wheel was as mysterious and mythical to the traders of the galaxy as King Arthur might have been to the first spaceman. Okay. It's not possible, Alex said. He would have told us. Hell he would, Rafe says. The ship that killed your father was no pirate. He was killed because he'd found something. Something that certain parties were deeply unhappy that he'd found. What exactly is the obvious question. Rafe doesn't know. Okay. So there we go. That's the kind of setup for the Dark Wheel. A bunch of weird guys, girls, goodness knows what, who are out there managing knowledge. Okay. Now back at the beginning of Elite, when it first kicked off, and it's obviously still there, is a system called Shinatra Desra, which is the Founder's World. And when you get to Elite status, you get a permit for this system. You can't get to it until you become Elite in some way or another. Shinatra Desra. Okay. Now there, and you've got to be a little bit careful when you go in there because lots of people will try and kill you. That's just the kind of place it is. It's kind of Mos Eisley really for Elite. You get a discount on ships and all sorts of good stuff. But there is a faction there, which, and I'm not Elite on this account, so I can't go there yet. But there is a faction in this system, at least there has been, which is the Dark Wheel. And they did dish out some missions. Now, whether or not they are the Dark Wheel, or they're just a faction using the name, isn't clear. From what I understand, they're a fake Dark Wheel, or at least if they are, they're a front to something else. But that's something that's worth checking out as well. Rocking on back with here. So ultimately, Alex and Alicia have a fight. They catch up with the guy who killed their father, and they do away with him. And they manage to kill him. And that's kind of all the way down here. And then they have a little chat about whether a planet could be Raxxla. And then there's another clue. No way. That planet Cyrag is Cyrag, and Raxxla, if it exists, is in another galaxy. You know the legends. Okay, talking about some legends, some weird sort of stuff going on. Now, it's worth pointing out again, for the original Spectrum version, there were these charts, and in the kind of original lore of Elite, each chart was a separate galaxy, and you had to have a special hyperdrive unit to jump between the galactic charts. And the idea that this was Galaxy 1 and the next one was Galaxy 2 and so on and so forth. Now, whether they were really galaxies or whether they were just different zones is sort of a bit of a vagueness in Elite, and it was never really explained. Now, does it mean that Raxxla is in a different galaxy, or is it in our galaxy? It's a bit, yeah, that one's a bit vague. So anyway, so eventually they do kill the pirate, and we get our last clues about Raxxla here from the original book. Rafe chuckled and shook his head. You see, that's the big question. Your father was chasing the mythical planet. Oh, it says plant here. There's a typo. The mythical plant. No, that's definitely supposed to be a mythical planet, Raxxla. Does it exist or does it not? If it does, then on Raxxla there's an alien construct that's a gateway to other universes and all that's in those universes in the way of bounty and treasure and aliens and life. Jason Ryder was convinced that Raxxla existed. That's what he trained for and became part of the Dark Wheel, the Legend Seekers. I hadn't heard much about him for some time just before he died. When he'd found evidence for the existence of Raxxla, he came back to get a proper team together. And just before he was due to go back, decided to take a holiday to see his son, and an assassin was waiting for him. But why, says Alex, why kill him for finding Raxxla? And Rafe basically answers, because there's people there already. This is only a guess, mind you, but for what happened I'd say it was pretty close. We've long suspected that a core of elite people, or elite combatants, guess that is, lives there and exploiting the gateway. So in summary, the Dark Wheel sets up Raxxla as a planet. It sets it up as a gateway. It sets it up as an alien technology of some kind that allows you to exploit space in some fashion. That is the setup. Now, in the next version of Elite, Frontier Elite 2, which look like this. I don't know if there's. There's probably a YouTube version of it. That's probably the easiest way to show it to you, because it was quite funky. Came out in 1993, I think. Frontier Elite 2, the sequel to Elite. Let's just do the intro because the intro is quite cool. Boom, boom. That's the remake. That's the original one. Let's have it on the Amiga because the Amiga had the best sound. There we go. So this is the intro to that game. Now, in this game, it's notable that the Thargoids disappeared, other than one ship. You can hear that amazing retro sound. This was awesome back in the day. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. There was no hint of Raxxla in this game whatsoever. Wasn't mentioned. Not in the fiction, not in the game, nothing at all. Is Raxxla the correct spelling? I don't even know if it's a correct pronunciation. I don't know. I'm assuming Raxxla is how you pronounce it. Raxxla, R-A-X-X-L-A, is definitely how it's spelt there. So this is a second Elite game. Okay. This cool ship, by the way, is the Imperial Courier, as it originally was. And I think it's a bit cooler than the current one, because it was a big badass ship, really, really quite nasty. But there's no mention of Raxxla in the second game whatsoever. And this was 1993. This version of Elite came out, which is 9 years after the original one. You can kind of see how the graphics had changed quite dramatically in those 9 years. Computer power had come on quite a long way. Actually, it was very sophisticated again back for the time. So that's Frontier Elite 2. And there's a nice cool section. Let's go back to where the ships come in and start shooting it. Okay. So there we go. This is Frontier Elite 2. And we get a nice sort of space battle at the end here, where the pilot of the Imperial Courier takes on these two eagles behind this big bulk carrier ship, ducks behind, sneaks out behind them, and does them in, which is quite cool. Very cinematic, especially back in 1993. But nothing about Raxxla. Nothing about Raxxla at all. So we had to wait for the next game, which was called Frontier First Encounters. And that looked like this. Again, you can see 2 years later. Let's go back to the beginning so we can sort of see it. Very similar kind of technology, but a little bit more advanced. David Raven, of course. These were solely by him, the second and third games, with an acknowledgement to Ian Bell, obviously doing the original Elite. But now you've got sort of Gorad shaded graphics, a little bit more sophistication, not just flat shapes, but you can see it's still pretty blocky. Again, very, very impressive for the time, with a bunch of ships. The Thargoids were back in a big way, and the entire Thargoid storyline, which is referenced in Elite Dangerous, does take a lot of inspiration from First Encounters. A lot of the Thargoid stuff that is there is directly referenced from this game, although the canonical ending of this game is not what happened in ED. So the lore again got changed, because in this game your pilot, because you were the hero in these Elite games, because it wasn't multiplayer, your pilot basically had the choice to deliver or not a poisonous mycoid virus to the Thargoids, and if you decided not to exterminate them, you were actually given a Thargoid ship as a reward, and you could fly around in that at the end of the game. That ending didn't occur in Elite, and but the mycoid virus, if you go and look at the INRA bases in Elite, you'll notice that they're all connected to this storyline, and lots and lots of detail about what was going on in First Encounters is again in Elite Dangerous. So all those kind of clues are in there. But Raxxla, nothing about Raxxla at all. Nothing about Raxxla in First Encounters, nothing about Raxxla in Elite 2. Raxxla was simply not there. Now comes slightly insider information. I haven't talked about a lot of this stuff before. Some of it I have, some of it I haven't. But here's the next bits. Still love the original game. Look at that. Back when we were writing the original books for Elite Dangerous, the writer's guides were provided to us, and they were in a state of flux because the game was still being developed, and those guides gave us very specific things, and they were top secret. They still are, really. I can't put them out online, and they're very much out of date now, and they possibly aren't really being used for Elite now that it's a full game. But they were there for the writers to make sure that their fiction was cohesive. And they told us things about the Thargoids, and they told us things about how the ships worked, and they told us things about the different types of space station and the weapons and the classes of ships, and the general layout of the galaxy, the history, the timeline, and various other bits and pieces. And there were a couple of things in there about Raxxla, not surprisingly. But it was very tight-lipped. Frontier didn't give us very much information about Raxxla. And the two things that did come out is that Raxxla was genuinely part of the Elite Dangerous lore. So it very much is part of the Elite Dangerous lore. It hadn't been retconned out as it might have appeared to have been, given the fact it didn't appear in the two sequel games. It only appeared in the original game. But no, Raxxla was definitely in. So was the Dark Wheel as an organisation. It was definitely part of the lore. I didn't intend to do anything with Raxxla because I kind of thought, I want to do something slightly different. So I did my whole Salome, and I did the whole Imperial thing on the Prism system and all that kind of good stuff, because I wanted to create something new, because that's kind of my raison d'etre. I didn't want to do the Thargoids, I didn't want to do Raxxla, and I didn't want to do any of the original stuff. I wanted to strike out and build my own kind of thing in the Elite universe, which I had great fun doing. A couple of other guys, a couple of the other writers, asked whether or not they could do the Thargoids, and some information about the Thargoids was given to them, and you can find out about that in T. James's book, which is called Out of the Darkness. He was able to do the Thargoids, at least introduce them to a point. I did a little bit of them in Premonition as well, but not a great deal. Some of the writers asked, can we do Raxxla? To which the answer was no. Absolutely not. Raxxla was off limits. Raxxla was not going to be done by anybody outside of FDev. Plain and simple. The answer was just very polite, but it was a no. The writers were not allowed to expand on Raxxla beyond the fact that it was there, it existed, and it was just a part of the Elite mythos. It was there, it was part of the lore, but we weren't even though we were kind of tasked with writing official Elite books, we were not allowed to expand on Raxxla. Raxxla was an in-house secret for FDev to play with and work on. We thought, well, that's cool, because that leaves a mystery for us to kind of look forward to in Elite. Now, fast forward a couple of years until the point when Elite actually came out in the alpha. Now, there are a series of guidebooks, as I've mentioned, written for the writers. And one covered the Federation, and one covered the Empire, one covered the Alliance, and one covered the ships, and one covered the politics, and one covered the technology, etc., etc., etc. Okay, there was one on aliens, which we didn't get to see. We found out about it, but we don't know what's in it because we never got to see it. So I know there's one additional writer's guide that I don't have a copy of that exists. And within that, I am led to believe are references to Raxxla, amongst other things, which I don't, obviously the Guardians were probably in there. So that sort of stuff was around. So, and that's kind of where it was up until that point. Now I went along because at this point I hadn't actually met David Braben. And it was kind of on my bucket list of things that I wanted to do. And I heard that he was giving a talk in London at one of the BAFTA events. I think this was 2015, I'm pretty sure. Oh, thanks for the friend request. Let me just sort that out. Where did that go? There we go. Oh, I have no... Oh, no, there we go. Arbrook. Yes, there we go. Fantastic. I thought, I'll go along. It's not that far away. I was actually in London at the time. And the tickets to it are actually free. I was surprised it didn't get snapped up much faster. But anyway, I managed to pop along to this BAFTA award ceremony where David Braben was given a talk. And his talk was called My Other Ship is a Cobra Mark III. And he did a talk. He talked about Elite and the procedural generation and the history of the game, blah, 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 blah. And I had actually tweeted him beforehand saying, looking forward to your talk, hopefully I'll see you there. And he actually tweeted back to me saying, yes, great, it'll be good to meet you, Drew. And we met in the bar afterwards and managed to snap the obligatory selfie. And I asked him straight there in the bar, is Raxxla in the game? Because it was the only mystery I didn't know about, in any detail whatsoever. I said, is it in the game? And he said to me, point blank, face to face, yes it is, and we, FDev, know where it is. That is the verbatim phrase he gave to me back in 2015. So, there we go. I have no reason to doubt David Braben's word. He told me face to face, yes, it's there. Now, I don't have any other clues. Lots of people assume that the writers got that insider knowledge. We did not. We do not know where Raxxla is. Okay. Lots of people have also asked me about this oft-reported thing that keeps coming up on the forum, which is somebody's been through the Raxxla system, honked it, and moved on. I don't know where that came from. I've never been able to find the original source for it, and I don't know if it's true. There have been clues ever since. Michael Brooks was on DJ Truthsayer's stream a few years ago and also confirmed that Raxxla does exist, but there will be no clues. So we don't know a great deal more than that. But for me, the fact that so much that is in here has been deliberately and specifically put in Elite Dangerous beyond, I think, just a nod to the original game, because it would be easy just to put the nod into the original games by just putting the core systems around that spot, but there are some far-flung systems as well from those galactic charts which are in there for no obviously immediately good reason. They have to be in there. There have to be some clues. There has to be something that links all of that together. I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't know what it is. I wish I did. because then I could kind of be all smug. But no, I don't. I don't know where it is. The writers don't know where it is. I don't think anybody outside of FDev knows where it is. But there are clues there. Okay. There are even some systems where the random number letter sequence does spell Raxxla. You know, that's also kind of stuff. Is there an original list? Is there a list of original Elite games, or systems, I guess that you mean, are also in Elite Dangerous? I don't think there is. I've never seen one. I don't think anybody's done that analysis yet. That would be a worthwhile undertaking. I think stuff like that, Frontier is sneaky. We've seen that. Frontier are very sneaky. They've told us there won't be any clues. I've got a theory, which I don't mind sharing because it's just a theory, which is that Raxxla can't be all that far away from the core worlds. If Frontier is sticking to the lore, if we go back again to this original galactic chart. Now, one of the distinguishing features about the original Elite was that you only had a jump range of 7 light years. There's nothing you could do about it. Okay, nothing you could do about this jump range. It was stuck, just part of the game, part of the actual gameplay dynamic, to be honest. In the lore of the game, if you go back through here, the first ships in service, hyperspace, again, and I'll leave you to the research because you can go and dig this up online as well. Hyperspace has a genuine start point that are, the ships only have a 7 light year range, and it also tells you a little bit about, how far the ships could actually travel and what the significant events were of the background. And most of that information that's online is reasonably accurate. And what it implies is that up until ED lore time, i.e. 3300, travelling any major distance across the galaxy, which is obviously so easy today in Elite Dangerous. I mean, I'm sitting here at Sagittarius A, pretty much. Back in the day, in the lore of the original game, was a long distance. Couldn't travel that far. So if Raxxla existed back here, and it was, let's say it was still a long journey, but and a difficult travel, it could not have been that far away from these core worlds where the story of the Dark Wheel is set. So let's say, 10,000 light years perhaps. It was about as far as you could get in the original sequel games away from Earth before your hyperdrive just conked out. So in the lore, all of the action happens relatively close to what we would call the bubble nowadays. So my theory is that Raxxla is probably not all that far away from the core worlds. I don't think it's in some remote position way far out across the galaxy. I'm hopeful that they've stuck to the Dark Wheel. It's a planet. It is it's got some kind of weirdness about it, clearly. And I think if they're going to be clever, they're going to stick to those original clues and try and flesh them out from there. That's my kind of theory on it. I haven't seen what else, but we're going to have to play around with that kind of stuff and talk about it and sort of see if we can work it out. But I suspect that there are clues and various bits and pieces from the original game which we're still not quite putting together. That's my assumption on it. Have we heard anything else in game? Well, there's one last thing that's worth talking about. Let's go to the codex, and I'm assuming people have already started looking for this because it's it's there in front of your face. But in the knowledge base under Raxxla there is, and there you go, there's the earliest recorded mention of Raxxla, dates from 2296. Okay, so that is 1,000 years before the present time. Where is the thing? So that's Raxxla. Actually, I think it's under the Dark Wheel. So the Dark Wheel base. Where is it? Here. According to self-professed conspiracy theorist and People's Journalist, the original group was based in a disused starport orbiting the 8th moon of an unnamed gas giant. Okay, and the station was toroid, hence wheel, and operated with minimal power output to avoid detection, hence dark. Now, Frontier have put that in the codex. It's in the Codex. Okay. Now, this is probably the ultimate distillation of the lore. So even if we discount the original book, even if we say no, this is trash. Okay, it's been retconned. It's dead. Raxxla is in the Codex. The Dark Wheel is in the Codex, and a significant selection of all of the systems that were mentioned in this book are in the galaxy map, for no other obvious reason than they're in the galaxy map. So, where does that leave us? It doesn't leave us with much to follow. There isn't a start here and going for. Looking for a gas giant with an 8th moon station, like looking for a needle in a haystack. Well, yes, it is, but you know, that's the only place we can start with that one. It is a faction in the game. We've talked about the fact you need to be elite to get there. Is it permit locked? What is it? All of these bits and pieces have been kind of endlessly debated around. So bits and pieces from that original Novella are there, and they've been deliberately put in there. Has Frontier just left it dark? Have they maybe not put it in there and it was a bit of a bluff? I don't think so. Whenever Raxxla is mentioned, David Braben, if you watch the videos of him on the live streams, whenever Raxxla is mentioned, David Braben has a little roguish smile on his face. There's, something's going on. Something is definitely going on. A couple of people have mentioned Polaris. Now, Polaris was an interesting system. The North Star, as seen from Earth, is permit locked. You can't go there. It requires a Polaris system permit. And some weird stuff happened in Polaris in the 2nd and 3rd games, which again you can go and research if you want to online. It's all there. You can't get to it in Elite Dangerous. It requires this permit, which there is no way to find. Which pretty much brings us up to date. Now, I'm hearing you, Morocco. Are they just stringing us along? Maybe. It's worth mentioning that the Raxxla was mentioned in the Dark Wheel, and exhaustive searches of the code in the original Elite game revealed that it wasn't there. It really wasn't there, which, I've had emails from people saying, I went searching for years in the original games looking for it, and it wasn't there. It wasn't in Frontier 2, it wasn't in the 3rd one either. But we have been told by David Braben and by Michael Brooks, who are pretty much the architects of the game and the lore of Elite Dangerous, that it is there. And until that is revealed to be false, I'm going to take that precisely on face value and say that that Raxxla is indeed in Elite Dangerous, because I just don't think they would have not put it in there, based on what they've told us. How we find it is a good question. But there are enough little bits of stuff hanging around there for me to go, there are some threads. There's some threads to be pulled. There's various bits and pieces to investigate. And maybe we'll find out a little bit more. The other thing that's been interesting as well is they've just talked about kind of community engagement stories and lore and various bits and pieces for Elite, which are kind of sitting in this gap in the next 18 months between when we get the kind of super duper new version of Elite in late 2020. So maybe there'll be some clues in kind of that space. But I think Raxxla is almost kind of the end game. Once you reveal Raxxla, there is, Elite is kind of almost over. So whatever they do, it's going to be a long burn. We're going to get closer and closer in every world I find. So, and maybe it's best left as a myth. How are they going to do justice to it? I mean, if you presented me, if David Braben came to me and said, actually, Drew, we haven't done anything yet, but we'd like you to write Raxxla Go, I don't. I have got no idea what I would do, because how can you do justice to something that's been a myth for 30 years without making it naff? But you know, they've made a pretty fantastic game here. Yes, it has faults and various other bits. We know that, but we love it as well for its faults. Raxxla is part of that whole thing. It's as important to Elite as anything. It's as important to Elite as the Cobra Mark III. And you saw the amount of time and energy they lavished on that ship when it first came out. So I still have faith. I still have faith that Raxxla is going to be a cool thing. Precisely what it's going to be, I have no idea. But I hope they stay true to the original mythos behind how it all started. So that, my friends, you now know as much about Raxxla as I do. There is nothing else I can tell you that you now don't know. That is it. I kind of still excited. I do like the idea of Raxxla being out there and being something weird and mysterious. So it's a myth. It remains a myth. It remains a story, and maybe that's what it will always be. But I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what comes up. Let's keep our ears and eyes open to see what's actually going on. So there we go. Right, I need to dock my ship and start bringing the stream to an end. But thank you very much for your company. I hope you found that interesting. I hope I've cleared up a few misunderstandings as well, because there is a lot of misinformation, inevitably, about Raxxla. I don't think that somebody has honked and scanned it is accurate. I've never found a source for it. And I also, for those of you who only ever played Elite Dangerous, I hope you now understand why Raxxla is as important as it is, because it goes back to the beginning. You know, when Elite was created back in 1984, Raxxla was there, right alongside the game. You know, Raxxla is as old as the Cobra Mark III. It's as old as Lave. It is as old as the Coriolis space stations, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it. There we go. What else can I tell you? For those who missed it, I do capture this on my own hard disk. So what I'll do is I'll probably edit it up and stick it on YouTube, because I think quite a few people are interested in Raxxla, obviously, and we can hopefully dispel a few myths, but keep the magic of the real myths. How about that? Is that a bit poetic? Is that the best way to say it? But yeah, to summarise, I don't know. I don't know where Raxxla is. None of the writers do. None of those people who were in the Kickstarter know. It is a mystery that is completely sealed inside FDev, and has been deliberately done so. Maybe for the mystery, maybe because they're doing something cool with it. I really don't know, but it is FDev's mystery, and there we go. And you should end the stream with, and that's where Raxxla is. Yeah, that would be like kind of cruel, but there we go. But anyway, hopefully you found that. Can you relate a few of the myths that there are misinformation and wrong that you know of? Well, the one about people, somebody has jumped through it and honked it, seems to keep coming back on the forum, but there doesn't seem to be an original citation for it. The other one I keep getting is whether Drew Wagar knows where it is, but he's not telling. That is not true. I can categorically say that I do not know where Raxxla is. None of the writers know where Raxxla is. Those who originally did the original thing. I don't think many people in FDev actually know either. I spoke to Michael Brooks and David Braben at length when I was doing the lore for Premonition, and Raxxla was completely off topic. It wasn't allowed to be discussed. It is not in the Formidine Rift as far as I am aware. So the lore and all the stuff, the adventures I did with the Formidine Rift was my piece of lore that I added into Elite Dangerous, and Frontier have now added to the Galaxy map, which is very kind of them, is a separate thing to Raxxla. As far as I'm concerned, I never wrote anything that linked Raxxla to the Formidine Rift at all. So the Formidine Rift is its own separate thing, own piece of lore, own piece of history, not connected to Raxxla. So I think if you're looking for Raxxla, the Formidine Rift is not the place to be looking for it. So yeah, so those are the key ones. So not the Formidine Rift, not known outside of FDev, and I don't think it's been honked and going on thing. And here's a question: should I be searching the Formidine Rift for something? Well, yeah. So I'm sure there's stuff out there. Not everything that I asked for was done, but I've seen a few things out there that I didn't ask for either. So until we've been out there and looked through everything, I don't know. They keep adding things, and they don't tell me when they add things. It is their game at the end of the day, so yeah, they will expand. The fact that the Formidine Rift exists on the galaxy map is there, so there we go. Anyway, there we go. So thank you very much for your company. I hope you found that interesting. I will add it up, edit it up and put it on YouTube. I'll try and do that tomorrow. And then we'll go from there. Is an audiobook version of Elite Dangerous Premonition on the cards? I am working, or I'm trying to work with Frontier on this one. It's not for lack of me wanting to do it. Frontier are very busy, however, and Elite Dangerous is only part of what they do, and working with people like me is only a very, very small part of that. Yes, basically I'm still working on trying to get that to happen. I haven't given up yet. And so on and so forth. Oh, I'm missing a question, Winnie, 1974. So the saying that the Raxxla has been honked is bogus. Toddler from Hell, I can't say definitively that it is false. What I can say is that I've never seen the original citation for that claim. So I've seen it repeated lots and lots of times on the forum, on Reddit, on Twitter, etc., etc., etc. But I've never seen or found the person who originally made that claim and where it's written down. Whether it's in a video or something from somebody who's actually kind of authorised to talk about it, somebody from Frontier basically. I have not seen that original citation, so I don't. I can basically neither confirm or deny, but I suspect that one's false. It sounds like the sort of thing that's kind of grown in the mythos, but there we go. So there it is. Anyway, folks, I must love you and leave you. I shall type 07 into the chat. Give me an 07. There we go. You know what it's all about. Give me an 07 and I will say right on, Commanders. And good luck. Good luck there out in the void. I think the answers are still out there. So keep it going. And if there's more information, we shall come back and do another chat about it. And hopefully I'll see you all back again soon. So thank you very much. I do stream Elite Dangerous for an hour or so on Thursday evenings. Occasionally I may even do it on Sundays, but Thursday evenings is my regular slot. And I'm currently on Distant Worlds Expedition heading out into the black. And if you have lore questions and things you'd like answered, then do pop in and ask. I'm more than happy to tell you what I can. I'm still under an NDA from FDev, so there's certain things I can't talk about. But everything I've spoken of is either public knowledge or insider in a sense that it is actually out there. I've just probably not said it on the stream before, so it's just a case of reiterating things and making sure all the myths and clarifications are correct in the interests of honesty and making sure that we have all the facts at our disposal. So there we go. So thank you very much, guys. Right on, Commanders. And hopefully I will see you. You fly safe, and of course if you can't fly safe, fly dangerous. Take it easy, and have a good one. Bye bye now.